some of the visions that I had were visions of my father, my childhood. I saw myself being born. I saw myself being born feet first, and later on I asked my mother, was I born feet first? And she says she had such a traumatic birth with me that they had to give her so many drugs that she was unconscious, so she doesn't know. But she did end up getting asthma because of that, so I don't know. And then I saw things, my father featured in these visions a lot, and I realised that a lot of the things that were going on in my life were because of my relationship with my father. It wasn't very good when I was young, and we've always been quite distant from each other, and it sort of revolved around him. And what it seemed to be doing was it was teaching me lessons. It was showing me where I'd gone wrong and what I needed to do, and how I needed to address my problems, and how I needed to deal with things. And it seemed to know everything. I had all these questions in my head that I was going to ask, and I remember thinking, I'm going to ask about aliens, I'm going to ask about Elvis Presley, all these things. And at the time, none of them really seemed to matter, because when I was in this trance, those things seemed to be irrelevant. And it seemed to know that they were irrelevant. So if I started going off track, it would do things like it would sharpen a pencil, and in the visions the pencil would start sharpening itself, and the point would come to my face, and it's as if it was saying, get to the point, stop waffling. So I did ask about other forms of life, and it did say that there are many forms of life throughout the universe, and they all have a similar sort of process, and some far more advanced than us, and that we are all here for a reason, and that a lot of us just seem to be lost because we don't know what our purpose is, which is how I felt. I saw that in one of the very early visions, I saw two types of bird flying towards me, and one were doves and one were eagles. So I asked, what are these? What do they represent? In fact, it's not like asking. I didn't have to ask. I just wondered, and by wondering, the answers were revealed to me. So, for example, the doves represented love, and the eagles represented strength, and it showed me that one was masculine, one was feminine. So obviously the eagle, which is strength, was masculine, the feminine were the doves, and that when a person is born, these two qualities go into that person, into the body. However, the strength goes inside the body, but the love stays inside the head, and for some reason this is called the Godhead. And strength has structure and form, whereas love is fluid. And the purpose of strength is to protect and serve the body and look after the Godhead. And the Godhead is to connect with other people and love unconditionally. And that's how we're born. We're born as pure beings full of unconditional love. The trouble is that when we get out there, we experience trauma, we experience difficulties, we experience the withholding of love, we experience tyranny. So these are the words that were being sort of shown to me. Tyranny was very prominent in the visions. And obviously when we're exposed to these experiences, sometimes we have such traumatic experiences that the strength says, I'll look after you, don't worry, I'll deal with this. And so strength then starts to come out of the body and fight this oppression or tyranny. And sometimes you get people that are, they're horrible and they treat children very badly. So that type of tyranny is then challenged by the strength, and it tells the love to go inside and I'll take care. But the problem is, the strength's job is to stay inside the body and control and manage. But when it comes out, it starts to control and manage everything else. It thinks, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to deal with this. And that's where the ego comes from. Eventually it goes out of control, it becomes very rebellious because it's fighting all this tyranny. It too becomes tyrannical. And it showed that man's tyranny was everywhere. It was in every form, everywhere you looked. Wars, the media was somehow part of it. It showed that mass manufacturing, anything that was commercial, it was almost like it was all about control. And it showed things like foods and things like that, meat. These were all tyrannical foods, and the desire for man to control and manipulate and take over other tyrants was this obsession, and this is where the tyranny came from. And so it showed me that I was being a tyrant as well, because I wanted to have control, I wanted to be successful, I wanted to make lots of money. And I'd experienced many stages in my life where I'd started a business, become very successful, and then something would go wrong. So I'd do something else, something else, something else, and it kept happening. There was this pattern where I kept doing things and things kept going wrong. So I asked, why was that happening? And it showed me that the ego side of me, the tyranny side of me, wanted to have this control, wanted to have this success, and it was wanting to have all this worldly power and possession. But the love side of me was saying no, because it knew that the tyrant in me would become far more powerful and want to control, and so it would sabotage it. So the love side of me knew that this was wrong, and so it could keep sabotaging all these different things that I was doing. So every time I got somewhere, something would go wrong. And it showed other forms of me. So I asked, who is Iboga? It showed different types of people like myself that looked like me coming up saying, I am, and they'd just disappear. Or one of them just sort of expanded, shouting, I'm Iboga, and he just exploded. And then another one came on and he was shouting, I am, but he seemed very, very insignificant in the sort of grand scheme of things, because you saw a landscape with millions and millions of people all holding hands, not saying anything, and there was this constant sort of flow of energy between them, and there's this other me showing, I am, trying to be unique. And it showed that when you try to be unique, you're actually nothing. But when you connect with everybody else, you're actually some part of something very, very big. And this is where the phrase "there is only one" kept coming back into the visions. And at one stage, I saw myself split in two. So I asked, why am I split in two? And I'm revolving in opposite directions. So I asked, why am I split in two? And it showed that one part of me, which is love, and the other part of me is the ego, working against each other. And what I needed to do was I needed to connect. So I kept asking, who is Iboga? And all these different egotistical versions kept coming out. And eventually I saw, or rather I heard in the distance over there, in a very quiet voice, somebody saying, I am Iboga. And I looked, and it was this just ordinary figure you wouldn't even look at. But he put his arms around everybody and he connected with everyone. There was this energy flowing through him, and I just knew that that was my true self. So I merged with the true self, and it showed me all these other egos, and they'd gone out of control. So I had to then, negotiate with them, or negotiate with the ego. And eventually I found him in a hospital bed, and he was very, very sick, and I had to give him medicine. And as I'm giving this medicine, I'm telling him I love him. And for whatever reason I'm saying this, I don't know why I'm saying this, but the guide is telling me, feed him and look after him, nurture him. And so I feed him, and he becomes better and he smiles. And I tell him he must go back inside the body, and that my job, which is the love me now, is to go back up here, because I was actually locked inside the body. So every time I thought I was doing every time I was trying to do something, the love side would stop me, and it was the part of me that was trying to get out, because it needed to get back to up here where it was supposed to be. So I then negotiated with this tyrant ego part of me to go back inside and become strength again. See, strength, when it's distorted, becomes tyranny. So there is no evil really, there's only tyranny, which is strength that is distorted. And this comes back to this concept of there's only one. There isn't two. There isn't good and evil. There's only good. But strength distorts and becomes a tyrant, which appears evil. And the idea is you don't destroy the tyrant, you connect by giving them unconditional love, and that's how you overcome evil. So I then negotiated with this strength, this ego, and it went back inside. And then I saw myself as being complete. So I wasn't in two parts, I was in one person. But I was in three different colours. I had black, gold and cream. So I wondered what these colours represented. And the colours represented love, strength and fear. So I said, what is the fear? And it said fear of failure. So I said, how do I get rid of this fear? And it said, fail anyway. It just kept giving you examples. I won't go into the specific visions, but it showed you how the fear of failure is just as unproductive as trying and failing. Whereas at least if you try and you succeed, then you've succeeded, but there's a chance you might fail. But not trying is worse than failing. Sorry, not trying is worse than trying and failing. So you had to try. And so I got rid of the fear, and then I saw myself gold, cream, and I had loads of diamonds all over me. And then these flowers suddenly started to fall onto the stage, and I picked up these flowers, and I saw my mother and father sitting there. So I gave one to my mother and one to my father. And I realised that all this time I've been trying to get the approval of my parents. So my purpose for trying to become successful, trying to be something, was all because I needed their approval. And because they weren't giving me the approval, I was trying to compensate for it by going out there and trying to be something I wasn't. So in this vision, this particular vision, I realised that they needed my love. It wasn't me needing their approval, they needed my love. And I've never been able to have this relationship with them, so I gave them a flower each, sat down, put my arms around them, and we connected. And then you saw this energy flowing, and it was just amazing. The experience was just incredible. I mean, I used to have fears of electric pylons. I had fear of tunnels. I had fear of anything that was man-made and really, really large. So not necessarily buildings, but tall chimneys, tall structures, especially with a framework. And for some reason, if it was dark, it seemed to have a more of an impact. And anything to do with deep sea, the deep darkness of the sea. And I realised that all these fears somehow were connected to my not loving my parents. And when I came out of this trance, all these fears just seemed to disappear. The fear of the tunnels, in fact, the fear of tunnels was very interesting, because when I saw myself being born, I saw myself struggling to be pushed out. And for some reason, I think my head was, I don't know, it was trapped. And so the fear of the tunnels actually for me was coming out of the tunnel. It wasn't going into the tunnel that frightened me, interestingly enough, it was coming out. And this seemed to have something to do with my birth. So that fear disappeared. And when I came out of the trance, I realised I had no fears, no negative behaviours, no habits, no routines. I didn't have any sort of behaviours that were, unresourceful or unhelpful. I just didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. I woke up and I thought, what shall I do? Do I have breakfast? Do I go for a walk? Do I read a book? And I remember it was snowing that week, and I just sat there and looked out the window, and I had no thoughts. That's another thing. I had no thoughts in my head. So I just sat there watching the snow falling, and I thought, wow, look at this snow, it's amazing. And it was a bit like seeing snow for the very first time, and I just sat there in the bed watching the snow. And I remember thinking, what a wonderful, wonderful feeling just not having any thoughts was. And I just fell asleep.